So let's take our first look at the Ferrari Vision Gran Turismo car, get our thoughts, what we like, what we don't like, and see how good it is overall. Hi guys, hope we are all doing well. Welcome along to Affinity Racing, and in this episode we're going to take a look at the Ferrari VGT car for the first time. I haven't seen too much on this, but I've been excited to see it get launched onto the game, onto Gran Turismo. We're going to take our first unscripted look, and we are literally going to head straight into the garage right now because we do have our gift waiting for us. We answered the question correctly for the Gran Turismo World Series thing, all thanks to Kirith really, because I didn't actually know the answer to that one. Received this gift, yes please. Let's take a quick look. And our first thoughts on the look of the car, let's be honest. What an awful looking thing this is. Let's be fair. It's not the worst looking VGT car that we've seen, but it's still not the best. But it celebrates 75 years of Ferrari, so we are told. Here it is then. Let's get a quick look at the car then before we do. One thing that I do like is actually this interior, or the inside of this car. I can't really say interior because there's not much to it, but this very kind of like minimalist, sat right in the middle of the car. Single seater, of course. Really cool looking setup in there. Not that we drive too much with the cockpit view on, but it's kind of good to know what you're supposed to be in. As for the rest of the car, this doesn't even look like these wheels should move or turn. It looks like it's all just one huge chunk of metal, but nonetheless, or carbon fiber I guess, but nonetheless, it looks alright. It looks alright. I'm not a huge fan of it overall, but it's certainly not the worst Vision Gran Turismo car that we've seen on the game. There is some absolute shockers. Let's take it out on a track, see what we reckon. We're going to do Spa, we're going to do Brands Hatch, and then we're going to take it out onto the Nurburgring to put it to its proper test. Right, so first things first, let's get this car around a quick lap of Spa. For reference, we're on the medium tyres, by the way. It shifts, that's for sure. It accelerates, that's no doubt about that. My god, actually the grip of this thing, Jesus, wow. The speed and the grip of this thing and the downforce is pretty tremendous. That was on the medium tyres. Under braking it seems a little bit weak randomly. That was very bizarre. The way that this car took Radeon and Eau Rouge there, or Eau Rouge and Radeon, was pretty tremendous. On the medium tyres, I was not expecting that to stick, but I just wanted to plant it. It's a little bit weird because in the corners, the slower speed corners, actually seems as if the downforce is all gone. So it's certainly a case of the faster this thing goes, the better it works. Little bit of lift off oversteer almost into Puong there. Here's the MP44 then. We absolutely rinse that on the start straight. Right, let's find out the top speed of this thing. It's a McLaren VGT, which also has a bit of power in there. Yeah, I really wasn't expecting this sort of grip and that sort of downforce to work so well. 8 gears in this car, is it? Because I did think that I got up to 8th. Yeah. 7th seems to be the one that's worth sticking in. There's the 150 meter board, so you see that it does brake pretty well. We were stopped within probably about 75 yards there, but just, ooh, there we go. Onto the grass. But weirdly, yeah, it's the low speed corners where you then perhaps end up overestimating the ability of the car because it's so good in those higher speed corners. When you actually get used to this thing, which I can't say that I am because I have not even done 2 laps of Spa, but when you get used to this thing, it feels, I would say, quite nice. Certainly one of the better VGT cars, that's for sure. There's a few on here that feel like a little bit of a letdown. I feel like if you drop through the gears a little bit quicker, you might be able to get stopped for the bus stop chicane from the 150 metre board, but not quite. Interesting then, first thoughts on that. It handles a little bit better than I thought it would do overall, but I do feel like it's easy to overestimate its ability in the slower speed corners, if that makes sense. Just need to get used to braking, I think, basically, because there's so much power behind that thing. I have been driving the Group 1 cars all week because of the daily races, so maybe the braking capabilities of those cars have got me overestimating this by default, but yeah, not too bad. Let's get it round Brands Hatch. I want to do a track in the rain as well, just to see how it kind of copes and handles there. We'll get the soft tyres on it also, and then of course we'll take it round a lap of the Nurburgring. Right, so one of the reasons that I wanted to take this thing round Brands Hatch is because Brands is like a slow to medium speed circuit. You need to be very, very conscious of the power that you're putting down. You can't overdo it, as we almost do into turn 1 there. And it is kind of one of those ones where, obviously, it's quite difficult to overtake as well. I want to try and work out just how kind of nimble and late moving this thing can be. As we see there, when you do put the power down, as with most cars, of course, with so much power, apparently this generates over 1,000 horsepower, it can be difficult to try and turn at the same time. So we certainly found that one out there, out of Druids, foot down and straight over to the left hand side. No ability to steer. This is going to be a tricky one here. We'll try not to clout our way through. Almost a good move. Almost a good move there. Couldn't quite make it stick, but he runs wide. Possibly the hardest corner on Brands Hatch around this track, that one there. Penultimate corner onto the pit straight. Obviously it's not quite the same when you're picking your way through traffic, but I do suspect that this will be the next daily race. Will be that week over Christmas when this car is officially released to everybody. Right, this one on the back straight. Always forget the name of this corner, but we know which one I'm talking about. Let's see what we can do. Oh, maybe not. Totally overestimated that one. I don't even think soft tyres would get us around there very well. Not full throttle anyways. That was overestimating it by an absolute country mile. Certainly overpowered for a circuit like this. But overall, not too bad. It had a little bit more control around there than I actually did think. Not too much lift off oversteer or kind of anything like that. That makes it really, really difficult. The only problem being is that when you do want to get down on the power, Brands Hatch is one of those kind of down on the power kind of as early as you can do and get a good clean cut through the corner and a good exit. A little bit difficult to do that. You've got to be very careful on the throttle because it will just send you in the direction that the wheels are pointing, if that makes sense. Once you put your foot down, a little bit difficult to start getting the car to turn in. But overall, not too shabby. Right, so we're going to head over to no track other than the Red Bull Ring for a track with a little bit of rain. Now, I'm going to start on the intermediates. I have set this to torrential rain, so I don't think that the intermediates will quite cut it, but I'd be interested to see if there is a major difference that we can spot straight away. We are well over the threshold for requiring full wet tyres. I just want to see and get a bit of a feel for just how difficult this could be if you were to attempt it, or if you were to get it quite wrong in race strategy. So far so good though, we're keeping it pointing in the right direction. Now we're not though. So what I was talking about before with putting the power down and then not being able to turn, that was a little bit of that. A little bit of that. It actually does handle, it's probably out its depth for the intermediate tyres, to be fair, when we look at how much rain is on the floor. But it does handle a little bit better than I thought it would be doing. Granted, we've just been overtaken by AI, but I was just trying to push the limits of that throttle there along that straight. Certainly not as bad as I thought it would be. There we go. That was me being a little bit silly. Intentionally. Putting my life at risk for the benefit of others on this video. The advantage you've got as well is you can go 2 or 3 gears higher than what you realistically need to be in. We're in 6th gear, and if you watch this, you've still got tremendous acceleration. That battery power obviously kicking in as well. Can we save it? We do save it, just about. Right, let's jump into the pits then. That was a lap of morbid curiosity, that one. Let's jump on to the full wets and see what they can do. Oh, there's a shot of the interior, that is cool. Cockpit view. You get some good data on that wheel actually there. It even had the condition of the tyres if I was seeing what I thought I was seeing. I mean, this is actually really, really good, this. Oh, maybe not. Okay. I overestimated my capabilities there. I don't think that was the car's capabilities, that one. To drive it in a straight line. I do think it's capable of that. I mean, you just look at that there. That's maybe what, 3/4 throttle. The acceleration up to 160 there on the top on the straight. Absolutely tremendous. It does get stopped a lot better than I thought it would do as well. Very, very light on the brakes, and it stops fairly well in the wet there. I think this car just has so much downforce that it just manages to generate it no matter what the conditions of the ground beneath. So that's an advantage. Oh, this is unreal in the wet. This is really, really good. Look at that speed. See if we can get it stopped. We absolutely can. Just run a little bit wide of the apex, but you can absolutely get this thing stopped fairly accurately as well. This is torrential rain, remember. Look at the radar down on the bottom left hand side. That is not too bad at all. I'm quite impressed with that. The downforce off this thing must just be absolutely insane. When you look at the shape of it, apart from the rear wing, there's nothing much on there that would suggest there's much downforce to it. Maybe it's the front wing actually. The front splitter on the front, but yeah, really, really impressed with that. Handles fairly well in the wet, to be fair. I think that would certainly be a car of choice for if Gran Turismo decide to allow some wet weather racing, because we haven't had it too much, or some dynamic weather. That could certainly be a car, if you know it's coming or you know there's potential for rain, could certainly be a safe car to jump in. I'm a fan of it so far. Right, so we're going to take this car now through its biggest challenge yet. We're going to take it around the Nurburgring Nordschleife. We're on the actual racing soft tyres as well here. So this is taking the car to its biggest test on its fullest of fullest potentials. I'm absolutely going to go all out. Oh my god. This is the weird thing with this car. See, I turned in a lot earlier than I thought I would need to. There. I turned in where I thought I would need to, sorry, and it was a lot earlier than what I actually did. As soon as this car gets up to speed, the downforce and the control of this thing, it literally is a case of the faster you go, the better it gets. We'll see if we get some air here, or does the down... No. Look at that. Look at that. That is ridiculous. Up to 8th gear. We might actually find here the top speed of this car. If we don't, we certainly find it on the back straight. 225-6 miles an hour. Oh, we just outbraked. That was so annoying. That would have been very satisfying if we got that right there. Oh, we would have had that, but I clipped the grass there. That was my fault, that one. Oh, might actually go as far as saying as I like this car, you know. Should have been a little bit more tentative on the throttle there for sure. So one thing I do notice about this car is that its initial braking phase from those high-speed straights is very, very good. It will get you down from 230 miles an hour down to like 50 miles an hour in no time at all. What actually seems to be the weird thing is that, as we say, with those slower speeds and downforce not quite working as well, and the aerodynamics then not working quite as well, It's that last kind of like maybe 100 to 0 mile an hour braking that it seems to struggle with. And I say struggle with, it's by no means bad, but it's obviously not as good as the initial 230 down, which is quite an interesting sort of thing. So you do need to brake earlier, but it's kind of only to allow for that last 20-30 yards of braking, if that makes sense. This is absolutely tremendous. Braking just a little bit earlier there, and there we see it is from 70 mile an hour from that fourth gear, from 70 mile an hour, just trying to get the car turned in. Is slow enough that those arrows don't quite work as well. We mess up the carousel as well. But I tell you what, there's so many sections of this track that this car is just an absolute dream to drive. That was ambitious. that was over ambitious. To be fair, actually, you do manage to retain quite a lot of handling and control through acceleration. If you're actually just at like half throttle or 3/4 throttle, it's as soon as you absolutely plant it that it just wants to take you to another dimension, and it will take the most direct route, and that's where it will not let you turn. But if you keep it at kind of 3/4 throttle, you've actually got quite a bit, or just off, maybe it's even 90-95% throttle. You seem to have and retain a lot of control. I do have to say, however, one negative I do notice is that the battery does seem to take a little while to charge up. It does seem as if it's not that great at regenerating some energy. A lot of the Group 1 cars, the LMP cars, are pretty good. The Porsche 919 does generate a lot of that power back very, very well and very quickly into the braking zones, but I'm watching that battery there, and we've absolutely flattened it in the first half of the Nurburgring here, and it doesn't quite seem to want to put any more juice back into it, if that makes sense. So even under a lot of these heavy braking zones, there's not a huge amount of power that's going back into it, which is a little bit of a shame. Because if it could just regenerate some of that and retain some of that life, it would be absolutely mighty for an entire lap of this Nürburgring track. Oh, do you know what it is? I don't think we'll actually hit that top speed because we don't have any battery power now. So we might actually therefore struggle just a little bit. But as we found out earlier, we got to 225 miles an hour. Trust me to put it on the grass and bin it on the final corner or the end of the back straight. There we go though. That is a lap of the Nürburgring. A very rough, not so quick lap. We still do it in under 6 minutes. I'm sure that there will be some people, no doubt, getting that very close to 5 minutes. Let's be perfectly honest. That is a very, very good car. I really, really like that. I really, really, really like that. It's a little bit difficult to kind of form some proper thoughts while you're just trying to get used to it and trying to drive around for the first time, but immediately the control in high speeds for this thing is absolutely unbelievable. It does therefore feel like it struggles in the slower corners, just by nature of how good it does over here in these high speeds. You bring it down into those slower medium speed corners, it feels like it then kind of under delivers just so ever so slightly. But that's just you kind of, or me in this case, overestimating because of the experience we've had in these fast speed corners. You know, Eau Rouge and Raidillon through Spa, I thought, God, this car can do everything. And then as soon as we start to get to the first chicane and kind of the infield track of infield section of Spa, those second couple of sectors, then kind of realise, right, okay, it's the aerodynamics that are working so well for this thing in the high speeds. And it's just those lower speed corners where it just starts to it gives you a false impression, and it just makes you overestimate ever so slightly. But overall, absolutely awesome. Out of the corners, this thing flies, especially when you have a fully charged battery as well, hybrid power. Out of those corners, it absolutely launches you. That's where you do have to be a little bit careful. You just want to make sure that you're not absolutely planting full throttle if you do need to get a little bit of steering input in there. Otherwise, if you're on a straight, this thing can drive in a straight line fairly well, as we also seen in the wet. Fairly capable in the wet. In fact, very capable in the wet. Even on intermediate tyres, the downforce of this thing allows you to just push a little bit more than you maybe could in other cars. And overall, a lap of the Nürburgring, very fun. Wasn't the quickest, wasn't the best, wasn't the cleanest. We certainly put it into the wall quite a few times there. but that's all part of the fun, unless you're actually driving an actual real car and you're not on Gran Turismo, in which case you need to be a little bit more careful, I do recommend. But there we go. Really hope you've enjoyed this video. That is the first look at the Ferrari Vision Gran Turismo car. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? What do you like? What don't you like? How do you think this car could be improved, if at all? And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to subscribe. Plenty more videos on the way, and I shall catch you in the next one. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe for future videos, future episodes, and more content just like this. And while you're down there, make sure you check out our description for links to our merch store to get hold of awesome t-shirts just like this one. Any orders on the merch store goes a long way to supporting channels just like this. I also think the t-shirts look pretty cool, so make sure you grab what you can, and I shall see you in the next episode.